Hey guys, Super Awesome here. We will be watching a video of the new game that just came out recently called Wargame European Esclation. In this game I will be playing as the Warsaw Pack, and I'll be using primarily Soviet style units. This is me over here in the center for Warsaw. So we'll watch from this point of view. So about my ruse videos. For some issue, if this gets actually uploaded, for some issue, my YouTube videos have not been uploading, not because of any copyright issues, but because my internet speed has been just poodoo. So I've been just kind of dealing with that. That's mainly why I had the videos loaded and ready to go, but they just, for some reason, like one got to 3%. I went to bed, woke up the next morning, and it was at 3% and had over 9,000 minutes to go. So I was kind of like, well, yeah, just forget about that. Didn't know that did that. They added at least this. At least this is new in some sense. It wasn't the same picture if I remember correctly. This game is still in beta form, and the objective of this game currently is a points-based system in which you get points depending on what kind of unit you kill, what you kill it with, and how much that unit's worth. And then you go and have a fun time. You have to use command vehicles like this UAZ 4698, which is basically, if I'm remembering correctly, it's just a little Jeep, Soviet style Jeep, and it is normally best to place these kind of units in some sort of cover like trees. The major difference between this and ruse, which a lot of people have been associating themselves with, well, not associating themselves with, but associating the game with, is the simple fact that this game is so like ruse, in the sense that really it's very similar. I mean, you can use very similar tactics to win the game. Now, ultimately, there are no aircraft in the sense of planes in this yet. I don't know if there are going to be, but currently there are only helicopters like these, which are very nicely done. I think the skins for all of these units look nice. This is a T-62, and up here we have a, what is these called? A 2K-22 Tushkana. It's an anti-aircraft vehicle. And then we have the T-72 over here. And for the Warsaw Pact, I only have basic units, at least in this game. After this game I leveled up and was able to buy more advanced units, and was able to bulk up my Warsaw Pack army. Now, this, at least for my NATO pack, I have Abrams and a whole bunch of other tank units. Now, like ruse, this game is highly tank-based in combat. Infantry, as we'll see over here later on, can actually do quite a lot. You just have to know how to deal with them. Basically, if you know how to use your infantry properly, you can use them effectively, like in any game. Now, what's going on over here is called a Chinook rush. I've actually never dealt with one of these, but these Chinooks are, as you can read, transport choppers. Excuse me. And they're transporting what I'm guessing is more than likely either Rangers or Delta Force. I believe they're Rangers, and they're anti-aircraft. Now, there is an interesting glitch in this game. If one Chinook lands and the other does not, then neither of them will launch, or not launch, but unload their units, which I am taking a bit of advantage here with my gunships. My ally was able to use his anti-aircraft vehicles to knock out what my gunships couldn't get, and in fact they were carrying Rangers. The one survivor has been plummeted by missiles. Sorry about that. I was being asked questions and had to do something. So, let us resume with the Battle of Fun Times. Now, this game is based off, well, not based off of any real events, but is based off of the technologies of the Warsaw Pact and NATO forces during the 80s. As we'll see, these are APCs, or troop transports. No, these are tanks. Or, no, I'm sorry, these are... What the hell are these things? Oh, they're artillery units, that's what I thought they were. My guess was either going to be some sort of heavy anti-aircraft gun or an artillery unit. And it was artillery. Over here we have APCs and anti-aircraft guns. Unfortunately, that's how you see them in foresty areas. I don't know why my brain had a brain fart there, but it did. So, now my job was to secure right here. My objective was to secure November, which is actually named differently in my game. I'm looking apparently at this from the NATO forces perspective. This, if I remember correctly, was actually called Hotel in my game, so that was a bit different. Not a whole lot of activity. I'm obtaining more travel. That's actually not even me. That's my ally to the left. He's getting a new chopper, a couple new choppers. My ally to the right is currently having fun. And here's one of the first major tank battles of the game. We have Leopards, Leopard Mark 3s or A3s, which are going to do battle against the Russian T-72s and anti-aircraft. He did an excellent job, if I may add, of putting his units in the woods, which gives a basic defensive bonus, like in real life. You know, if you hit a tree instead of a tank with your shells, that definitely will slow you down a bit. Turn that up, mess with that later. Right here I'm bringing up the information. They just have a flak gun, which is standard. These are German-based units, so, you know, kind of think Tiger tank or Panther tank, though these look nothing like Tigers or Panthers. They look more modernistic, like an Abrams. Now, NATO is pulling back from this area. We were able to secure it with a much larger force, if I may add. I'm only guessing this is more than likely tanks. These Flak Panthers are now pulling back, and the Leopards, one of them has a jammed weapon. That's another thing that can happen when in combat or moving through rough terrain or dense areas, like trees or woods or whatever. You can have slowing down issues where your troops can get derailed or have a track come off or have a weapon jam or just have some sort of issue that would hinder them in some way, which is an interesting thing to do. Over here we may have some battle as I move my forces around to take Mike. Now let's see if I view this from my perspective, if that has anything. I haven't done anything yet. Outside of remove enemy forces. You guys tell me whether you'd like me to leave it neutral or from the perspective I played as. For this game, I'm going to leave it neutral. Now in game, I did not know what was here. So I'm moving my forces here, and my plan is to assault here, because I did notice that they did have units in here. I don't know if my recon's gone through it. No, my recon's going through now. And when my recon goes through, his anti-tank unit right here is going to take out the recon unit, which alerts me to swing over a T-62 unit or two and start hammering these guys. Let's see, anything else? Not a whole lot of action. We're going to be getting some extreme action over here at Mike very soon. For me, this was where the whole battle took place. Basically, this area exploded into major time combat. As you can see, the recon units moving in. For the Russians, I have very crappy, well, not for Russian, but for Warsaw Pact, I have very crappy recon units, the basics you get. For NATO, I do have Bradleys and other light armored units. Now, in this game, you can only call in reinforcements from off the map areas that have these not triangles, these arrows leading off map, indicating routes of supply or routes of transport that you can bring your units in from. Another interesting thing is you may notice one of these kolos, which is a logistical unit which brings in support. Your units need fuel and ammunition in this game, and these bring it. They bring fuel, ammunition, and will repair them, which is very cool. I think that is a very, very good addition to the game. Was something that was not in Ruse that is very good, actually. I thought that made the game much more realistic and adds a level of play that makes it more fun. Now, I'm unaware that these leopards are here. They start taking out... They take him out and I suddenly notice... Now, like in all video games, units like the clump, which is very bad. I start to swing them out in more of a U or pincer formation. As you can see right here, I'm taking these guys up this way, I'll start taking these guys out this way, and the leopards will be merely overwhelmed by my unending tank force. Which is a major reason why I love playing as the Warsaw Pact. Their tanks may be not as good as the NATO units, but man, can they attack in never-ending numbers, which is how I use them. I use the T-62 very effectively. It's actually one of my favorite tanks in the game. It may not be the best armored, and it may not be the fastest, but man, it comes in numbers. And that's really how they've balanced this game, which is a great way to balance a game. A unit may not be very good strength-wise, but it is amazing in numerical-wise, which is a good thing to do. Now, we have over here, we have a bunch of things happening. We have an infantry charge, tank charge, nope, just tanks. Tanks and aircraft. And the enemy, or, well, my ally, I should say, is using the cover excellently to defend this area from this tank advance. Flak Panthers, which are anti-aircraft units with miniguns or something right along those lines, can actually fire at tanks and infantry, which is very realistic and very neat. And I've had tanks be defeated by anti-aircraft guns, which is always kind of sad. Here we have Bradleys and Leopards and Flak Panthers, all in a failure of an assault. Now what you're seeing here is artillery. There is one drawback to this game. It is that artillery needs some sort of regulation. Artillery currently can fire across the map, are very effective at attacking tanks, infantry. Basically, artillery are just plain out overpowered. There hasn't been any way... There's really no way to fix that unless you really nerf it. Unless you make artillery bad at fighting something, which is and isn't realistic. Artillery is anti-air or anti-tank, anti-infantry, anti-anything on the ground. But at the same time, to have artillery that has such range and accuracy is really unfair, and the makers of this game are probably receiving a lot of angry emails from people saying artillery is overpowered, but there's not a whole lot they can do, because if they make the artillery underpowered, well, suddenly you have basically a useless unit. If they make the artillery, if it makes them cost more, it may be a way around it. If they make it so you can have less artillery at one time on the field, it will fix it, because, you know, I've had people on my team, and I've played against people that have used just artillery, and it's very, very frustrating. I played a 1v1 tonight that I had to defeat a guy that did that, and I completely crushed him because I used artillery's one weakness outside of being bad against anything in one-on-one, but I was able to get within their range of fire, and, you know, he had anti-tank, he had basically everything protecting his artillery. He was using artillery as a strong arm to attack, to which I backslapped him, dropped rangers right on top of him, had the rangers scout out where he was, and then used that to have my tanks take him out. So that was an interesting time. But that's not this game. Now here we have aircraft fighting anti-aircraft. A horrible position to be in. And unfortunately these are my helicopters. I realized, because I went after the Abrams. The Abrams in this game are $100 just for one tank, and they're decently armed. I believe, if I remember correctly, let's see, I'm pretty sure they have 8 frontal, 6 sides, 2 top, and 2 rear, which is really nice. You know, I mean, it makes it a very good combat tank. But man, are they expensive, and you can only get 8 of them, which is just a small issue. But you know, that's how they regulate the game. Now, as you can see, we are using the T-62 extensively. I'm, you know, starting to bring in units which are more T-62s in mass. And over here on the extreme right flank, we have a bit of a standoff between these units, which are primarily anti-aircraft and tanks. Just one tank. Oh no, it's a recon and APCs and infantry, which is an interesting thing to do. I don't really go infantry. I love tanks, so that is what I use. And this is basically the first fight. Now, I don't know that these leopards are coming, and I don't think the leopard knew, or these guys knew, that I was bringing this task force. This task force was basically here just to scout out this area and secure it. I saw his command vehicle and said, okay, time to take that out. Command vehicles are generally almost 200 apiece, which destroy that. That's a massive economic blast. Now, all those T-72s were very highly damaged from the previous fight and were knocked out almost instantly. To which I go, okay, well, I hope my T-62s can hold the line while I start reinforcing them with these guys. I'm starting to have a bit of a logistical issue where these guys are almost out of gas because they have to drive so far to get to the front. So I'm having a bit of a logistical issue, but luckily my T-62s are able to use the fact that they're pre-set up almost and in an excellent position to take out the leopards who have to come up the hill and expose their stomachs as they're just coming over the hill, to which my T-62 drivers or not drivers, but tank gunners are using it to an excellent advantage. Now let's compare the leopard, shall we? The leopard has 3 front, 1 rear, 2 top, or 3 front, 1 side, 1 rear, 1 top. To the T-62's same exact score. So they were very well matched. He has a 105mm cannon to my 115. The T-62 is a little stronger than the Leopard, so that was definitely an advantage I had with the 10 more millimeter on the Leopard than they. He's faster though, which is an advantage, but not in this scenario, in which my T-62s are merely able to sit there and hold this position because the Leopards have to come up and over this area. These tanks are basically all Leopards. This is all T-72s, which is kind of funny because the T-72 is a better tank than the T-62. It has 6 front, 4 sides to the 3 and 1s, which is an interesting thing. Over here on the left flank, my ally is able to hold some more. He's really using that cover effectively, which is a nice thing to see, as he just starts destroying a Bradley advance, which, I don't know, I wouldn't have advanced against this with Bradleys. I would have used tanks or something to counter it, though my ally is using tanks en masse. It seems as though if he did try to counter, he would have a bit of a logistical issue with so many tanks there that need fuel and has no fueling in sight. I'm now spamming supply units up to the front because many of my tanks are either damaged or need fuel desperately. So I'm bringing them up, as my ally is just kind of sitting here, reforming up his groups, reinforcing his men, resupplying. So right now we're in a bit of a resupply battle as I start bringing up units off the map. I already have notified my allies that there is in fact an Abrams force. It's a force not to be reckoned with right here in the end of this area. So my allies are well aware not to go here because the Abrams are very, very mean. Not a whole lot of combat outside of helicopters being destroyed everywhere they go. Now, one thing you could say is, well, this battle, you know, what if the enemy had brought in a helicopter? Well, if the enemy had brought a helicopter, and I would have been screwed. I have one tank that could have effectively fought it because of machine guns. But it just happened to be that he also wanted to fight with tanks. Now, he made the mistake of thinking that I had moved out or did something to reduce the number of tanks here, which I did not do. I didn't even move my tanks because they were in such a nice defensive area. They can easily defend this area very well. Now, if I was on the enemy position, I would have used this area and this area to flank, which is difficult to do when I have the high ground and I could probably see it. So the enemy needs to get very creative to push me out of this area, to which I am securing and resupplying and really fortifying nicely. Alright, here at Oscar we're again having interesting combat of leopards and armored recon along with infantry that just got unpacked. They also have ATG dragons, which are anti-tank guns. Very effective. They have some Jupiters, which are German resupply units. An artillery blast that did nothing but destroy that patch of ground. And a immense ton of T-62s. That is a lot of tanks. But the T-62 can't really go all that fast and is very lightly armored, which really confounds me as to why I'm doing so good up here, although the Leopard has a smaller millimeter gun, which is really, I think, the prime reason, and the fact that the Leopard has to come up this crest to attack me. Now, artillery in this number is completely acceptable. I have no issue with that. My issue with artillery is when they sit back here, they have 15, 20, even 10 artillery pieces and just start bombarding you. That's where I have an issue, because that's very overpowered and very difficult to deal with. Now it's moving from tank destroyers in, which I noticed because I had the high ground. So I begin to counter scenario that. I noticed that this is starting to happen. He split his forces apart. I used these T-62s to start hitting these guys, to which I then changed that over and have them start hitting here. He also had a Leopard here, which I wasn't aware of, and I believe I used this T-62 unit to take out that Leopard, but I don't remember exactly. My initial objective was to use these T-62s to stop this advance or at least kill the Leopards, to which it all ended up, all I wanted to do was take out these Rocket Jägerpanzer, I believe that was called, not really sure. But my objective was to take these guys out, and I was going to do some kind of push against the enemy, but I believe I ended up choosing against that. Chippo the hippo was having a bit of issue with lag and eventually lagged out, or I believe he got tired of lagging and just left. Yeah, like that. This game is very well balanced in my opinion. I believe it's very realistic. It's the only game I've ever played up to memory that involves an actual resupplying logistical face of the game, which was something very few games to my knowledge have. It seems as though my ally has had a bit of an issue. He's been overrun here and has lost this foresty area. These tanks do not actually exist yet. He is reinforcing this area with more T-62s. If I remember correctly, you can get 20 T-62s, which is about as many as he has here. I'm not going to count that, but I'm going to guesstimate that he is somewhere near 20, if not more, which confounds me as to how he can have that many. Maybe he has some sort of ability or something that allows him to do that. I don't know. My ally is also using light artillery, in the sense that he's not using it en masse to hit the enemy, which is also acceptable. Like I said, my only real issue with artillery is when they're using it in, the 7+ range, where it's just like, okay, well, clearly your strategy is artillery spam. That's not something I support in the slightest. Back up here at Mike, where the combat is continuous. The Abrams, that was my new objective. Kill these Abrams. They are extremely powerful tanks, very, very strong, and my objective was to make them go away. Kill them at all costs. I start bringing all of my tanks in. The T-62s and T-72s are really not a match for the Abrams. It has so much better armor, but I have so many T-62s shooting at them from so many different angles that there's really nothing 4 Abrams can do against these tanks. The Abrams are routing and panicking, which is very bad. It's got a critical hit on its fuel, and I just knocked out 2 Abrams, and the other 2 are falling back now. He's bringing in Cobras. He doesn't want to lose these Abrams, but it already is too late. They're both gone, and we just won the game. As I said in chat, win the game through Abrams kill, which was very cool. I hope you guys liked my little video of Wargame European Escalation. I forgot what it was called there for a millisecond. And I would like to thank everyone that was in the game who did not know I decided to make this video. After playing the game, I went, wow, that was a lot of really, really good tank action. I really like that. That's very rare. I haven't really seen too many games that have such awesome tank action like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the little video. Bring us out back to the main menu. And that's super awesome. Signing off.